Hello everyone, welcome back to another mixing video. Today we're going to be whipping up In Love Again released by Yves Saint Laurent, YSL, in I believe 1998. Now this formula comes from an Instagram account called Perfume Archaeology, and this guy got the formula from a Firmenich patent issued in 97 or 98. So I've got this, per usual, I've got this recipe organized in my Formulaire app. I've got it in Formulaire. I've got it split up into my fragrance families, and I'm going to again start with the base, and we're going to smell the sandalwoods, musks, vanilla and coumarin. Then we're going to move on to the rosy materials. Then I'm going to smell the addition of some damascone and damascone. Then we have ionone alpha, Cassis 345. Then we have a little prunella. I don't have prunella, but I have stuff to make a similar base, or at least a similar accord. Then some hexyl cinnamaldehyde, Hedione, and finally Hedione. So let's get started. We are going to start with ISO E Super Sandella 85 and Bactinol. Those will be our first few. All right. ISO E Super. Now, this is most of this formula is actually Sandella and ethylene brassylate. Let's see, let's start with that. Let's start with our Sandella. I mean, the fragrance concentrate is roughly 20% Sandella, so we'll start with that. I have roughly an 8.6 gram. You know what? I am going to update my formula so that it's about 10 grams. Scale. All right, here we go. So we need almost 3 grams of Sandella. Now I have this at a 10% dilution. Almost everything here is at a 10% dilution. There's a couple stuff that has a 1% dilution. And with Hedione, I'm using just 100% Hedione to try to get the ending concentration of this formula to be about 20%. 20% fragrance concentrate. All right, 2.875. Let's see how we do. A little over, but that's fine. And I think I need to refill my Sandella, so I am going to move this over here next to my verbena. Okay, Bactinol. I've recently checked these, so these haven't spoiled. I've been mixing and blending so much lately that I've come across, and I took a while off. I took about 6 months off from doing any blending, doing any creating, and lo and behold, I open up some of my bottles and some of them spoiled. So I had to refresh and restart plenty of materials. All right, Bactinol, we are good. Let's get that ISO E Super. Not very much ISO E Super. I do believe this is a feminine fragrance. A jasmine, no, rose, jasmine, feminine fragrance. I think it's going to be rose heavy though. All right, 0.232. Good. All right, we've got our woods to start. Now already we've got about 25% of the fragrance concentrate in those 3 materials alone. Next up, we're just going to get right to the musks. We have another quite a bit, ethylene brassylate and exaltalide. All right, ethylene brassylate, classic, clean musk, 2.3. 2 grams, 2.3 grams. Now, the actual formula, at least on Instagram, doesn't ask for ethylene brassylate. It says astrotone. And if I look up astrotone, all that comes up is, I believe, ethylene brassylate or musk tea. So I figure, well, this will have to do. All right. Now, again, already roughly 40% of the concentrate is in those 4 materials. We're going to take it up to about 45% with our exaltalide. Almost a gram of exaltalide in this formula. Well, about spot on. Okay, we got it. Okay, here's that little swirl. Next up, we're going to add our vanillin and coumarin, and then we're going to stop and we're going to give it a smell. Oh, okay. Just a little bit of vanillin, about 1/10 of a gram, and just a splash of coumarin. Interesting. Okay, here we go. 7 drops. Looks like we need 8 drops. That'll do it. And then I'm not sure if I can get 0.005 grams of coumarin, but I will try. Usually a drop is between 0.01 grams and 0.015 grams. Let's see what we can do. I'll just give this a little splash. All right, overdid the coumarin, but that's okay. All right, we'll give it a swirl. Give it a swirl, we'll give it a sniff. Now, I'm not expecting much. I'm expecting musk, sandalwood with a little sweetness, a little more smoothness from the vanillin. All right. We'll let that chill. That will probably be a standard, unexciting, but solid base to work from. Next up, we have rosy materials. All right. Citronellol. We have geraniol, phenyl ethyl alcohol. I mean, come on, this is a base rose accord right here. We have geranyl acetate, rose crystal, or we have, rose crystals. I'm going to do this, and then I'm going to add beta damascone and damasconone. I'm splitting those up because I want to smell the difference. I know what I'm going to get with these 5 materials, with the geraniol, citronellol, phenyl ethyl alcohol, rose crystals, and geranyl acetate. It's going to be rose. I'm not sure what the addition of the damasconone and the damascone is going to do, so I'm going to smell those. I'm going to smell those separately, or at least after I put in the rose. All right, base. That's what you expect. Musk, supported by sandalwood, or sandalwood supported by musk. Dash of vanillin. You can barely smell the coumarin. Okay. Can barely smell the coumarin. Okay, let's get started. So, geraniol 95. We got the most there. geranyl acetate, oh, nope, phenyl ethyl alcohol, equal parts phenyl ethyl alcohol and geraniol, a little bit less of citronellol, or citronellol. Okay, let's start with the citronellol. 0.093. So when we get this into our base, I imagine this will simply beef up or add some body to the base. Having rose materials as the core of a fragrance is very common, at least in the 90s, early 2000s. Shoot, even in the 80s, 70s, the stuff, at least the formulas, the fragrances I've studied, pretty darn common. All right. 1, 2. That should do it for the citronellol. I like citronellol because if you want a rose note, you can just throw that in there and you have your rose note. But of course, if you add geraniol, phenyl ethyl alcohol, you're gonna get more realistic rose. Oh yeah, geraniol. Okay, 0.162. Okay. Our rose is coming along, our rose accord. Now I wonder if Firmenich produced this for YSL, if they just had budgetary constraints, they didn't want to use actual rose, so they had a rose accord, or is there a reason why they chose these materials rather than actual rose? You know, rose is very expensive. Very expensive. So I wonder if it was purely for cost, which is highly likely, or was it because maybe there were notes in the rose that were just a little too noisy, that were conflicting with other materials? Probably not. It's probably a cost thing, but all right. We've got 2 more pieces of the puzzle here for our rose accord, geranyl acetate, and rose crystals. Okay, geranyl acetate, 0.07. Do 5 drops, see what happens. Ooh. Yeah, we'll give it a splash. Okay, good. Rose crystals to round it off. Oh, hold on. Rose oxide. Rose oxide. Whew, that was close. Almost put in rose crystals. All right. Yeah, that was close. All right. We got this. Okay, 0.026. That's about 2 drops, maybe. Okay, overdid the rose oxide. C'est la vie. All right, let's give it a twirl. And let's give it a smell. While I'm letting this scent strip die down, air out, I'm going to add in the damascone and damascone. I would expect this to give our rose a deeper, richer feel. Maybe a bit fruitier, but just give it more heft. All right, damascone. There's just a splash of this, 0.005 grams. So that is just a splash. These are very strong materials. So they are at 1% concentration or 1% dilution. Got a bit more beta damascone. However, at 1% at least, 0.185 grams. Let's do it. All right, done. We'll get a scent strip on that, and then go back and smell our rose. Okay. This is my favorite part of the process of just smelling each step as we build up the pyramid, and comparing to see what effect each ingredient has, or at least a group of ingredients has on the previous or on the fragrance as it develops. Now this is pretty much what I expected. This is a rose on top of a sandalwood musk base. It's a sweeter rose. Some roses can be very zingy, a little spicy. There's some nice rose accords that have eugenol in them, and it adds a certain something. That is fantastic. Let's see if our damascones have chilled out. Whew. Yeah, those are strong. The rose is richer, fruitier. It's fruitier. That's very nice. That is very nice. Okay, next up we're going to add our methyl ionone alpha. I don't have isomethyl ionone. I just have methyl ionone. I don't know if it's the same thing. Sometimes, sometimes it's the same thing. Occasionally, anyways. 0.487. I think I've seen a few fragrance materials where they say, here, put X, Y, and Z, or this, this aroma chemical goes into the formula. And I think, oh darn, I don't have that. That is the, this is the wrong version. This is not the, isomethyl ionone. This is just methyl ionone. I can't remember what, I guess I've only seen this once, if I'm being honest. But it turns out like the ISO was the only version of that particular aroma chemical that was commonly used. So instead of just saying ISO, they just shortened it for some reason. Okay, we're gonna let that chill now that we have our ionones. Going back to the damascone. That's nice. Very nice. Yeah, that is wonderful. Okay, we're going to let the ionone chill out, and we're going to add our Cassis 345B. Looking forward to this. This has a juicy, very juicy, bright, fruity smell to it. 0.4. Just plowing through this. So roughly 3.5% of this fragrance concentrate is alpha ionone. Cassis is about 3%, so almost equal parts. I guess I try to keep in mind how much of each ingredient is in there percentage-wise. Okay. Ionone dominates. The ionone dominates. And it gives it a more powdery, almost powdery feel. Boy, since I've gotten comfortable with smelling ionones, I smell them everywhere. At least when I'm walking my dog down the neighborhood. You know, dryer vents, you know, pushing out the clothes, drier air. Ionones, I think, are pretty common in laundry fragrance. Oh, I haven't even done this yet. Cassis. All right, we'll let that chill. We're gonna move on. Now, this formula, I always want to say recipe, calls for prunella. I don't have prunella, not yet. I do have some materials that can get me close to a prunella base. So I'm going to put in some of that. And prunella is not a large part. It's not a large amount of the fragrance concentrate. So I've only got 1 drop here. Got some alpha damascone. A 1/10 of a gram. Tenth of a gram at 1%, that will do. Plenty of lactones in this. Okay. All right. Some damascone. Nice. Ooh, just a splash. Even at 1%, there's only meant to be half or 0.005 grams. So just a splash. So little, in fact, my scale thinks wind just blew on it. And then I believe the prunella base calls for methyl acetate. I do not have that. I've got some menthol, which ain't the same thing, but you know what? It's going to do okay. We will live with it. So we'll do that. Before I put this little prunella accord together, I put them all in a scent strip and then gave them a smell. It'll do. It'll do okay. I don't think it'll ruin this. So we'll give it a mix. And we'll grab prunella. We'll let that sit. We'll smell our Cassis addition to the formula. That is so subtle. With the base, the rose, the damascone and damascone, and ionone, it's very floral, sweet, rosy floral, on top of that musk sandalwood base. The addition of Cassis 345, very, very, very subtle. Even though it was about 3%, it adds something like an aftertaste. I don't know what you call that in your nose, but if there's an aftertaste equivalent to what you have in your nose, the Cassis provides that. The moment the rose clears from my nose, there's a hint of that greeny, rindy feel in my nose from the Cassis. That's very interesting. Very interesting. Let's try our prunella addition. Rounds it out. Thickens it up just a touch. Almost gives it a slight more syrupy vibe. Just a hint. Everything here is so subtle. But I enjoy, of course, I enjoy trying to figure out what all these do to each other. Okay, next up in the group, we have a little bit of Indole. Yes, we have a little bit of Indole at 1%, just a splash. Not only that, we're doing hexyl cinnamaldehyde. I wanted to try this because usually when I'm whipping this stuff up, hexyl cinnamaldehyde gets added. I usually add it with like the jasmine-like stuff, but I wanted to see how this works as a modifier. So I'm gonna get this Indole all alone. And it's interesting, there's Indole here, but I'm not getting any other white florals. There's no other jasmine, lily of the valley. That's not in here. So it's a little interesting that we're getting Indole. We'll do Indole. This is number 6.5. Okay. But there's only going to be a drop, maybe a drop and a half. If you haven't smelled Indole, you're okay. It does smell, they say, like mothballs. Smells like really old basement. And it gives a animalic vibe to your florals. It gives a richness to your florals. So let's give it a try. Get that on there, let it chill. And then now, the one I'm excited about, hexyl cinnamaldehyde. 3.5% of the formula is hexyl cinnamaldehyde. And I'm just interested to see or smell what the heck this does. How does it blend? How does it affect? Does it lift? Does it sharpen? Ooh, it's got a nice color. I did just test this, so this has not gone bad. Almost 0.5 gram in this formula. Okay. Oh boy, oh boy. And then we've only got 2 more ingredients. Give it a shake. Wonderful. Now let's go back and smell our Indole addition. Let's see if 1 drop of a 1% dilution of Indole has any effect on our fragrance. We'll start with the prunella addition, or faux prunella addition. It's nice. That's so nice. Easy. Rich. Floral. That rose and ionone balance each other out a bit better when you've added the cassis and the faux prunella to it. Now some Indole. Can't smell it. Cannot smell it. Maybe I'll smell it after it dies down. Maybe. All right, hexyl cinnamaldehyde. All right. It gives a brighter edge. The core is still there right now. The hexyl cinnamaldehyde gives it a bit more, just a touch more greenness. But greenness in a way that when you actually smell a flower, you smell a plant, you get the greenness from the leaves, from the, plant sap. That's nice. Okay, that is also subtle, but I can see how that adds to the complexity, where it's like you back up a few stages in this process, and you have something that smells nice. Pretty straightforward. When you add something like hexyl cinnamaldehyde, you have that same thing, but it adds another layer, another dimension, a little more complexity. Boy, that smells wonderful. Next up, Hedione. Here they ask for heliopropanol. And again, did some Googling. Typically what I'll do is I'll Google heliopropanol TGSC for the Good Sense Company. And whatever comes up on the top line, 9 times out of 10, that's what I'm looking for. So this one, heliopropanol, also known as ocean propanol, ocean aldehyde, something like that, otherwise known as Hedione. So how much Hedione? 1% of the concentrate is Hedione. So Hedione is bright melony. It's wonderful stuff. Let's do our Hedione dip and give it a little shake. Okay. Next up, last but certainly not least, the king or queen of modern day perfumery, Hedione. I don't know, what would you pick? Hedione or Isoe Super? What would be, who would be the king, who would be the queen? 34% of this formula is Hedione. All right, we're gonna do it. Probably going a little too slow on my drops, but that's okay. It's not like an extra drop of Hedione is going to ruin this. Look at that, pretty spot on. I'll take it. Need to give this a swirl because that'll take a second to mix. Yeah. That's better. That's better. Come on, just a little more. Yeah, there we go. Hedione, let's do it. So that's our the final step. Let's back up. We'll do our Hedione. Let's remind ourselves with the hexylcinnamaldehyde. So again, that powderiness is just, it's coming through. Ionone combination of the round soft rose, the addition of the Cassis. I'm still interested about that Cassis 345. That smells wonderful. I'm going to back up a couple steps. Yeah, okay. The hexylcinnamaldehyde, when I compare it to the stuff before that doesn't have it, it's as if it does provide this green, a little bit bright, a little bit waxy, dare I say, edge to the core. You got that rosy, ionone, floral, fruity core, and the hexylcinnamaldehyde just gives it a little, you could say, sparkle at the edge. Let's see what the Hedione does. The Hedione. Subtle. Gives it just a touch more, to me, melon-y vibe. And it's so subtle. Okay, very subtle. And again, adding 30% Hedione. Floralize it. lifts it. That's Hedione. It makes it a perfume. It's the funny thing. It's the funny thing. You start with your base. Sandalwood, musk. Just smells nice. It's easy. So easy. You add some rose. All right, now we're building the core. Still smells nice. Then we add in some damascone and damascone. Gives our rose a bit more heft. A little like dark fruit into our rose. We add our ionone. 3% of the formula. Blends very well with the rose. Let me add up the percentages quickly for the rose. Okay, so think 3 parts methyl ionone, 2 parts rose. That's the balance there. The ionone gives it that ionone balance. Makes it just a touch more powdery. Cassis addition brightens it up a little bit. It takes everything before it, brightens everything up. Still smells nice. The faux prunella. It's nice. It rounds it off, gives it more of a plum aspect. It's interesting how it contrasts with the Cassis, which brightens it up just a touch. The prunella, it doesn't conflict. It doesn't combat, but some ingredients fight each other, right? Some eating ingredients support each other. And I love putting these together because I can smell typically how they support and affect each other. But the faux prunella, that adds a nice, gentle sweetness. We added some Indole, which I could not smell. I could not smell. Hexyl cinnamaldehyde. Provides that waxy, sparkly edge to our floral, fruity core. Hedione adds a bright touch of melon at the top of this. Now, Hedione. This is where we have our perfume. It takes the whole thing, lifts it up, gives it a nice, to my nose, it just smells like this aura of white florals. It's clean, it's crisp, it's beautiful. All right, this is a wonderful formula. Again, I will put a link to this formula in the show notes, in the description. And per usual, I'm going to put this in a little 5 milliliter tester bottle, test it on my wife, see what she thinks. And we'll try again something else soon. Thanks for joining.